All right. Oh no, it was deleted on Facebook. Okay, well, we'll still go live on YouTube and then people can watch the replay. Let me see.
Great.
Okay, good. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you guys all for bearing with us and for being a part of the conversation today with Newbridge Marketing. This will be live and available for replay on my YouTube channel. So definitely my Facebook, my EXP group, go back and watch it there and watch the replay there and ask all questions, and actually go to the YouTube link to ask all questions now. And I'm going to post it up in the group in a few minutes. But without further ado, we have Mark and Steve from Newbridge Marketing. First, I want to just thank both of you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules to join the conversation today and to talk all things experiential with regards to being an experiential marketing agency. So I'm going to let you guys have the floor. Whoever wants to start first, just give us a little bit of background with regards to your experience and how Newbridge Marketing was actually formed. So I guess we'll start with Steve, and then Mark, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, and thanks for having us, Jay. We really appreciate the opportunity and really also appreciate everything that you're doing for the industry and for people within the industry. Newbridge, I guess I'm the old guy, so I'm the one who was one of the two originals. So we, I think that when I was thinking about this in regards to this discussion as well, there's a lesson here I was thinking for how we formed it that also relates to a lot of the kinds of advice that we give within the space as well. Nothing that we do is really rocket science. It was formed out of common sense in a way. Jacqui, my co-founder, and I were consulting at the time, and we were trying to help a brand connect to college students. And we saw it was hard to do. It was really a fragmented space. You go from one campus to the next to try to get approvals, and it was difficult. And we just felt like there should be a better way. So the two of us explored the space, found, I guess for lack of a better term, found a Trojan horse for a partner, a platform partner that could help get us to a lot of campuses. It was a campus bookstore company that runs a lot of campus bookstores around the country, Barnes & Noble College. And we teamed up with them at the start, and that's how Newbridge began. We really began as a college marketing company, helping brands get to a lot of campuses with relevant touch points to students and to their parents in some cases as well. And then we grew from there. Naturally, experiential came out of that. A lot of the things we did at the start were digital, but we saw that students responded, no surprise, really well to experience. And that's what got us into experiential, and we've obviously gone deep there.
All right. And what did you understand what experiential marketing was when you first started? Was it something that you were familiar with or had heard of before?
No, and it's probably going to be a good transition to Mark, I think, because he's more the experiential brains of the operation. I'm the old consumer packaged goods person, and Jacqui was as well. We both worked at Procter Gamble, and the way we saw it, we knew we had been on the brand side, and we knew that brands needed to reach these consumers. And as we got into it, and TJ as well on the team, when he joined the team, he woke us up to the reality that we don't just need to be hosting these events as they come through. Obviously, let's do what it takes to create events and get involved in the space. So I had no background in it. I've learned about it from the rest of the team that's come on that had experience, and I'll pass to Mark there because he's got a career filled with experience and experiential.
Yeah, I mean, I go way back to like 2003 when maybe there were 4 or 5 companies out there. So I'll play the old guy card too. I always was just amazed by the fact that you can go travel. Somebody would pay for you to travel all around the country and promote different fun products. So I knew all about it. And then, I started a staffing agency and merged that into the Newbridge family in 2013. And we had some team members that came over from different experiential agencies like Marketing Works, Pierce Promotions, and Red Peg myself. So at that point, we had a lot of reach in college. So we just saw like a golden opportunity. Like, we know how to pitch this stuff. We know how to build everything out. And we have the people to do it. So it was an easy, that's when right around 2013 is when we really started to build up the experiential side of things. And since then we've, bought trailers and food trucks and things of that nature, which make it easier for clients to jump on board because we have those elements.
So break it down for us, with you guys being an experiential marketing agency. For those who may not understand, you guys create the RFPs for the clients as well, and do your own fabrication and hire your team. So what elements or what role does Newbridge play in all of that? Is it all of those things or just a couple of them?
Yeah, so we typically try to do everything from soup to nuts. So we at times partner with different fabricators. So if we can't do like metal work, for example, or certain type of intricate woodwork and things of that nature, we have a lot of partners that we've worked with over the years. So that's the good thing, because if something needs to be built out here in California, or if something needs to be built in St. Louis or Miami or wherever it might be, we have a thick database of vendors and production specialists to utilize. So our bread and butter, I'd say, is on the college experiential side, of course, but it's the logistics side of things. So we can put everything together, for a client, regardless if we do it ourselves or not, just because of the experience and how often we've been doing it over the years. Collectively, I'd say we probably have, close to 60, 70 years of experience on the team from the experiential side of things. So that brings a lot of contacts and the ability to kind of put together whatever we want for a client. So.
And Steve, now that you have someone awesome like Mark on your team, who has been able to show you and introduce you to experiential marketing and show you the evolution and how it all works, what or how has the vision for Newbridge continued to evolve over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. It comes together really well with some of the past experience we had, because it's a natural evolution of marketing, I would say, because really I think what we're all doing in the marketing space is responding to consumers. Yeah. What are the kinds of tactics that they want to receive? What do they want to participate in? How do they create a connection with brands? Experiential is great for that. And experiential is becoming, and I used to work in finance and consumer packaged goods, so sometimes I lean to the finance side a little bit. I think you studied finance, didn't you, Jay?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So in finance, it's become much easier to justify the investment in experiential because of the digital side.
Yeah.
Because we want to share our experiences so much, whether they're good experiences or bad. Fortunately, most of them are good. We share an experiential, but it's become something that's not just investing in a one-to-one experience, but much bigger. But there's aspects to what we've done though as well that are really important that I think are sort of the future of experiential, related to things like research. So when I think about the roles that that brand managers and tour managers play out in the field, what's really important for a brand, one example is whatever new learnings you get from what consumers are telling you. Sometimes you're through the training, a tour manager and the brand managers then also, they receive certain tactical guidance, but there's things that you're going to see on the ground that people sitting at headquarters for the brand don't really get to see. Yeah. So I think there's just a great opportunity for a two-way communication there. And I genuinely think there's going to be this research triangle I like to talk about, but consumer research was the first thing that brands used to do. And then there was shoppers research. Both are still really important, but I think there's a third part of that triangle, which is experiential research. So, not only doing research sort of in a laboratory sort of environment to understand, what do you think consumers, and through focus groups, what do consumers want from a product or service? How are they going to respond? You get out there and watch how they shop it with shoppers research. How do they navigate a category for a product, as an example? But experiential research, I think, can be more valuable even than the other two, and it complements them really well because you see how people actually experience the product. And I think that's where the intelligence of the experiential community can really come together to inform brands. and again, genuinely make it a two-way kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, because oftentimes you'll find like tour managers like myself or even market managers, the first thing we say is, we know what we're doing, but oftentimes the account manager or even the owners may not really, there's a disconnect when they come on site and they want us to make things happen like this, but they don't understand that 3-4 hours ago, there was a whole might have been a logistical nightmare that we had to work through to even get placement. Like even when we did the Nord tour, like trying to park 2 26-foot box trucks in downtown Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sample was during 4th of July was a logistical nightmare for us.
Yeah.
But because we understand, you got to be there 2-3 hours before, you got to do site checks prior. You got to make sure that, all your ducks in a row as a tour manager are done to successfully execute that program. A lot of times it doesn't translate to the account managers like in the office. So that's just something that, we as EXPs in the field constantly work through. And it always helps when we have someone like a Mark, or even you, Steve, as an owner, willing to come in and learn the experiential side. And even someone like Mark, and I want Mark to talk about that in a few minutes, taking that transition from being in the field and working now on client side as a liaison, working in the office, and seeing that different aspect, because we were talking about that before you got here, Steve. So Mark, go ahead and just touch on that, because I think it's important that, EXPs hear it from somebody who was just like them, in the field.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, all of our account team in the office have worked on tours before. So I think that's a big key takeaway from this, that I've seen, and I'm sure you have as well, with other agencies, that somebody just comes in off the street and has no experience whatsoever, and they push certain elements on tour, and you're like, this is not going to work. This doesn't make sense at all. So the key is on our side is, the team overseeing the programs have been there before. So they get it and they understand it. So even in a situation like Cincinnati, that's perfect. You got there ahead of time. You knew that it was going to be pretty crazy. You checked in with the event contact and knew what time you can get there and knew where you needed to park. And that's key. I mean, if you don't do that on the tour manager side, and if it's not like in a logistics document, you're going to find out really hard and fast that it's going to be a tough day for you out there. So, but yeah, it all starts with that. And like with our experience too, we like to go out to, a lot of the first events for each programs that we do, and help build out the thing. So like Final Four, I was at the Final Four last year helping build overnight. Because I don't want to leave that just for anybody to have all that responsibility. I think it's really important that we collectively get together as a group and help make it right the first time. And then from there, the tour team can take off. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Steve, why do you feel it's important for you as the owner of Newbridge to have that relationship, not only with EXPs like myself, but with your clients? So, and then maybe Mark, you could talk through this too, because EXPs may often feel like, I'm out here working and the agency doesn't have my back, or they don't understand. So how do you, straddle that fine line of making sure your client's happy, but also making sure like your team in the field know that you guys value and appreciate them?
Yeah, I think, and I want to say too that I'm one of the owners, so I don't. There's a few of us, but authenticity is a word that comes to mind most. I think that I think the more authentic we are, again, it's not rocket science. It involves common sense, hard work, teamwork, and the more that we can be authentic with the brand partners before they get there. I mean, we tell brands when we pitch them about experiential, especially as they get close to agreeing to a proposal, that this is not going to be what we're proposing to you. Won't be the final. What you'll see at the end of a tour won't be what we're proposing to you. Mm-hmm. What we're proposing to you is what we're going to start with, and we're going to optimize it. and everything gets, whether it's traffic flow, whether it's certain messaging that consumers respond better to, or whatever it is, we'll be really close to the activation as it kicks off those first couple weeks, so that we can adjust and optimize. And that's part of the authenticity. The authenticity as well to the EXPs, the tour managers and the brand man, or the tour managers and the EXPs that are out there. When I think about the work that is done in the field, that's the most important work. That's where the consumer gets engaged.
Mm-hmm.
We want people out there to feel really comfortable that they can give feedback, that, again, your ideas are going to be better than what we're thinking of, sitting inside a building, not interacting with consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So we want that avenue for learning to come back to us so that we can bring it back to the brand. And if a brand shows up, at the activation, we want everybody, the brand ambassadors as well as tour managers, to feel totally comfortable to give them feedback, ask them questions, share insights, and things like that. It's all part of the group communication.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, it's not rocket science unless we work with NASA. So
yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Down the road, but I mean, Steve hit it right on the head. I mean, everything starts with what's going on out in the field, and we want to make everyone comfortable out there and treat it just like if the client was there. A lot of our programs we have with clients on site the whole time. So it all kind of starts with the tour managers and the EXPs to make sure that everything gets done smoothly. So.
And then with regards to compensation, because a lot of EXPs may feel like, you're asking for all of these ramifications or these qualifications, but the compensation doesn't equate to that. So how do you work with your clients to find that number? Because T and I, we were happy with the compensation. We were happy with the per diem and everything that was provided on our end. So kudos to you guys for recognizing and realizing the importance of paying your staff well. But how do you come to that, I guess, that middle ground with your clients to make sure that they understand the importance of paying the EXPs in the field a fair rate?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, I came from the tour manager side of things. So I was in the same boat. So one thing that I learned, and something that worked, that I really enjoyed, was the per diem aspect of things. So instead of us regulating where everyone stays and what they eat and what they do and all that, like, we put that into your hands. So we give a fair per diem that's equivalent to like a cash per diem, they would call it, along with the salary. So you can pick and choose where you want to stay. And what this does is gives you an opportunity to make more funds if you're budget conscious. So that's an advantage when we have clients that say, the budget's too big and we can't have these line items be so large. So the combination of getting that cash per diem and salary gives a lot of flexibility out there. We also do surveys and things of that nature, like Steve was mentioning with the research, where we survey tour managers and we survey Facebook pages and see what other companies are paying. So we try to stay in line with that or go a little higher. I personally know that you pay for what you get sometimes. So the key is, like, even if we have to, like, if the budget doesn't allow us to, we're going to find a way to pay a little bit extra for the very experienced people, because we know that the tour is going to go well. So if we make a little bit less on our end, and the tour goes well, the client's going to come back, everyone's going to be happy, and there's going to be positive news all around. If we try to cut corners and save some dollars and, penny pinch, so to speak, that's just going to make people upset, and the program might not go as smooth. So it's really important that we take care of the people that are running it on the ground.
Yeah, we have a role to make sure the brands understand that as well. Yeah, we get those extra couple or a few bucks an hour of pay from the brand, usually by really explaining this. It's like Mark said, you get what you pay for. So if we want the really good people, which we obviously do, if you want the best, you got to pay for the best. And they understand that.
So with that being said, what do you guys consider the best for an EXP who's looking for opportunities? I know things are starting to pick back up in our industry now. So what would you consider is Newbridge standards of hiring when you're looking at potential tour managers, assistant tour managers, or even brand ambassadors?
Mm-hmm. Mark?
Yeah, I would think we probably have similar answers, Steve. The biggest attribute that I look for is positivity and interest. So, I think one thing that will probably not get somebody hired is coming in with a negative outlook. If you're just like, oh, I've been here before, I know everything, like I know what to do. And if they just take it like it's just, another gig, somebody that comes in with a positive attitude about the brand, loves the brand, has interest in it, is going to win us over more than somebody that's got a ton of experience, but just doesn't really have enthusiasm about the role anymore. So those are key components. I think that we're a positive team here, and we love optimistic people. So, that's going to get you hired.
Yeah, I think also too, and this speaks to a theme I know that you and T have talked about. I watched some of your videos, Jay. But people that realize it's like, I'm not 9 to 5, if I can quote your shirt, but the people who have done lots of different types of tours, because as you know, there are certain types of tours that are pretty easy and some that are pretty hard. They can be hard in different ways. They can be hard from a physical labor standpoint. They can be hard from a research interaction sort of standpoint, data collection sort of standpoint. So there's different ways that they can be complex. And on a resume, when you see somebody that's done different kinds of things and continues to do different kinds of things that are challenging, that's a good sign, as opposed to somebody that is just doing one certain type of tour that is an easier type of tour. So that's helpful. And I think also too, and I know you've given good resume advice. I think that sort of resume advice is extremely important, because I could say from the agency side that it's like you've said in videos where, we'll flip through the resumes pretty quickly and something's going to catch your eye. If you got a 7-page resume, we're not going to see pages 6 and 7 necessarily. We're going to make up our minds on page 1 and 2. So, or at least know if we want to keep digging. So really, clearly written resumes with some good data for success metrics. But we peel it back a little bit further when we do our recruiting to look for what impact did they make and how's that showing up in the resume. So I think that sort of advice that you've given people is extremely important.
Yeah. So. And I remember when we interviewed with Katie, she did. Oftentimes when we interview with companies, they'll ask us questions and you could look at our resume, and me and T would be like, did you guys check out our resume? Like, everything you're asking us is on there. But Katie, when she came to us, she clearly took the time to look at our resume and look at the qualifications. So her questions were more specific to knowing how to do sampling tours, understanding logistics, and asking us those questions to make sure we were vetted in that respect. But I think it's important that you have account managers, which you guys do, which take the time to look at resumes and to ask those important questions, because to be honest, anybody can put together a pretty resume and make it, appeal. But when you get them on the phone and you start asking those important questions, then 9 times out of 10, a good account manager will be able to listen and say, something's not adding up with what's on paper. So that resume, and having a great resume, yes, is it essential because it gets you through the door to talk with, one of the account managers. But you also got to be able to articulate it in a way which appeals to the account manager and ultimately obtain that position. So
yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed people where they've put tour manager on the resume, and then you ask them like about the role, and it's just like, oh yeah, I worked as a brand ambassador on this tour in San Francisco. So it's just like, you're exactly right. Resumes, it's paper. Anybody could put it together, and sometimes it might not even be done by them. So having conversations and our team just being out in the field, the NOR is a great example. Like we needed people to get the samples out. We had 1.3 million samples. You're probably involved with one of the largest sampling programs in the history of experiential in that time period.
It was insane.
Yeah. People love the free stuff, right? And
yes,
we had a lot of NOR. So Cincinnati in general, I mean, there were 650,000 people at that event, or maybe I'm a little high, maybe 500,000 people with what they quoted us on. Where we had 125,000 samples. And there's a lot of logistics, like just to find out who's going to hold those samples. The clients typically want to get that off of their hands. So you got to find warehouses, and then you got to get them to open on the weekends, and things like that. And then, hopefully the warehouse drivers know how to use a forklift, things like that. So that's an inside joke for us, I guess. But
yeah. Jay, if I could ask a question too, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey.
Yes.
Because I think about, we're telling our story about how when we started the company, we just saw an opportunity in the college space that seemed to make sense and found a way to navigate and get there. And then experiential made sense, and we navigated and got there. And then we learned as we went. You've obviously done a great job with content, taking some chances and getting out there and helping others as well. So I'd love to hear about anything along your path that was particularly insightful, or like an inflection point where you took a chance or made a decision and that led to a new opportunity and opened up new doors.
Yeah. I would have to say just stepping out and working in the experiential marketing was a chance, because as you guys can see, I went to a very great school. I got a finance degree. I graduated in 3 years and started working on my MBA with my 4th year eligibility at SLU. So I came out of school with I had 2 degrees, but in 2009, it was similar to what's going on now. Everything happened and there were no jobs available. And the country as a whole was just going through a whole recession. So I had to pivot. I worked with Wells Fargo as a bank teller, and I was working at the Marriott front desk hospitality, 2 completely different fields than finance. And I ultimately still want to go back to finance and teaching kids how to invest, because I learned at a young age, the importance of investing young and how it could return dividends. But I had to pivot because there were no jobs in the financial sector for me at that time. So I started working 2 jobs, but then also was like, I got to find an alternate way to do something that I love, because I came from a Division I athlete playing in a team setting, and none of those jobs provided that team atmosphere that I wanted. So I started looking for jobs, that allowed me to use my personality and to talk with people. And a brand ambassador job, product specialist registration for Cadillac, came up. I didn't know what it was at the time, but when I went out there and actually executed the event and met a young lady, I found that, this was something that was different, but it was cool at the same time. And it gave me an avenue to be myself and work in a team atmosphere. So it was tough at first, beginning the career as a brand ambassador and really navigating and learning all the things that it takes to move up and advance to a tour manager and to a CDLA manager. So, that was back in 2009. Fast forward now to 2020, I've been able to obtain my CDLA to manage over 15 plus tours, either with T or by myself. And I've had the opportunity to travel to every state except Alaska. So my experiences are dynamic in the fact that I have been able to evolve, just like you, Steve, beginning as a founder and not really understanding the industry and evolving to now working alongside Mark and understanding all aspects of it. I have lived and breathed from brand ambassador, product specialist, team lead, working 5-6 jobs as a BA a day, to now ultimately being able to work as a tour manager and pick the tours that I want to work or not work this tour, or understand the importance of knowing how to manage teams efficiently. So in a sense, it's not finances, but a lot of the skills management wise, a lot of the courses, a lot of the business aspect of it, it still translates out in the field. Because when you're dealing with a client who comes from a professional environment, you have to be able to talk and articulate and explain, to that client what's going on. Or if you're dealing with a BA who is unprofessional and you have to go ahead and terminate them on the spot, you got to know how to do so professionally, because it could come back on you and ultimately affect the agency as well. So understanding all of that, I think it takes time, it takes experience as an EXP, but at the same time, you have to have agencies like Newbridge and people in the office that understand that it's more than just signing on a dotted line and putting an EXP out there. You have to be involved too. So that's why I appreciate Newbridge and other agencies like yourself, because the dynamic of being in the field is extremely important. And a lot of people don't want to talk about, that aspect, because it plays a big role. And ultimately, as an EXP, I'll be honest, like the respect level goes up when I know that Mark has worked in the field, or another account manager has the same type of experience. I'm going to respect you more, and I'm going to value, okay, you're telling me, Jay, you might want to do a site check instead of 1 day prior, 2 days prior, because you know your client and you understand what goes on in my world on a day-to-day basis. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. And thanks for what you're doing here. It's like, there's not enough of this happening where, companies are on this scale to be able to explain these messages to the broader group of people. So thanks for what you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And then too, just the whole, the controversial topics on discrimination in the industry. People don't like to talk about that, but it goes on. And I've gotten pushback from a lot of agencies, but it has to be talked about because the industry is representative of a greater whole of individuals, not just myself, but EXPs like myself who have concerns or have issues. And oftentimes, for fear of being blacklisted from an agency, a lot of EXPs don't speak up and don't share their stories because they don't want to lose out on that.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a good point too. A really key component of we like one of our core values. Steve and I and one of the other partners got together not too long ago and talked about our core values. And one of the biggest core values that we have is the listen side of things. So like we want to know how you feel, on the road and how you feel about things, like so we can get better the next time, opposed to just thinking we know best. So we always have an ear out there to listen. So.
Yeah, and obviously in today's environment as well. And it's, it's interesting we talk about it as today's environment, but it's the reality that's always been there, right? So we're talking about it today, but it's been there. We need to listen. I recognize that, we're two white males in a very diverse industry and very diverse world. And it's a time for us to listen and to reflect. I use the word a lot, authentically, but just like really to listen and think about and be honest with ourselves when we think about, okay, what are the steps we can take as leaders of our company, within our company, with others we engage with, and with whether they're individual consumers, whether they're BAs, or whether they're other vendors or in tour managers and whoever. What are the steps that we can take? Because it is a time to listen. I was thinking when we stepped into this year, we as marketers, we were thinking a lot about 2020 vision. Where what kind of fun marketing kinds of tweaks can you put to that name? And in hindsight, I think it's going to be more like 2020 hindsight, or it's going to be 2020 listening. It's a different thing we should be thinking about than proclaiming our vision for the future. It's time to stop and look back. understand history, understand where we all are, and think about the best way to move forward. But it's not about professing one's own knowledge. It's about stopping and listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. And I appreciate both of you shedding light on that and talking about that, because it is a tough conversation, but your willingness to be open about it and to share your thoughts is essential. So as an agency, Steve, how are you guys going to be pivoting? And Mark, you could probably speak to this too. How are you going to be pivoting with everything that's going on? Not only with the protests and all that, but as an agency with regards to experiential and moving maybe to digital. Like how is that going to look for you guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects to that question when I think about the things that are happening in the world, and then also just the company that we've built as far as the kinds of things that we do. As far as the world goes, there's obviously they're intertwined, but there's the two major societal issues right now with the pandemic and with Black Lives Matter. So when I look at the pandemic obviously really hit experiential between the eyes. Part of experience is virtual. So there is experiential that certainly is digital and virtual. It's not all physical, but events shut down. So experiential that's dependent on events temporarily shut down. And obviously still in a lot of ways shut down and will be shut down for a while probably. So to succinctly try to answer that question, I'll say that we're pivot. We fortunately have other aspects of our business. We the big college business we have has a large media component to it. So we do a lot of college student offers, run student ambassador programs. Student ambassadors are a perfect example where, extended brand ambassador sorts of programs, maybe 8 to 10 weeks on a campus. There's a physical and digital component to that historically. And as we look at it, having a big foothold in college, and we see ourselves as the leading agency in college marketing in the US. The college is one of the safest places to have physical experience coming up, because they're going to be on campus in a lot of cases, and we're tracking that closely. But it's not dependent on large events. So we're not out pitching, massive college football sorts of activations right now, even though we've done them in the past. We're pitching student ambassador programs, mobile selling on campus, things that are experience related, that are experiential, that don't require large events. As far as how just Black Lives Matters and other pandemic sorts of issues today for us, I think it's continuing to listen and find the right ways to take action. We made our verbal statements as a company, and we think that's important. I disagree if somebody says that saying is nothing and doing is something, because I think saying is something also, but you have to follow it up. It's more important to do, but we have to start by saying something, because silence is a big problem in the past. And it's still a problem today. So speaking out was one thing, but we're looking at what other further actions to take, and actually I'll follow up with you on that too. So, as a side one, I had a thought about that this morning, about following up from an advisory sort of standpoint. But we want to take real actions in that regard. Okay.
Mark, you want to add to that? Are you good?
I mean, Steve hit it right on the head. As an agency, we need to continue to learn and do the right thing. So everything that's happening now in the world is a wake-up call for everybody. And reacting and doing the right thing is very important coming out of this. So either way you look at it, and then on the side of the business side of things, we do have a lot of digital stuff happening, but we're also trying to adapt with a lot of the mobile selling and things of that nature. Because there's a lot of stores out there that may have trouble, and they might have to close their doors because people aren't shopping. So we're offering that mobile selling aspect of things, where you can go to a lot of colleges or parks and sell your products. So, yeah.
Can you talk, Mark or Steve, a little bit about that student ambassador program for any students who may be interested or may not have heard about how that works and why you guys started that type of program?
Should I kick that one off, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. We looked at it. We knew that student ambassador programs are difficult because it's hard to keep students motivated over an extended period of time. They sometimes dive in and do a great job for a few weeks, but it's hard to keep them engaged. There's a lot going on campus. They've got exams. There's a social aspect. There's a sports aspect. There's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. So we literally had a conversation 4 or 5 years ago where we looked at it and said it's a tough ROI to deliver. We haven't done it yet, but we're looking at it. But then we looked at it and said, well, we feel like we're the best college agency, and we're pretty darn good at experiential. Mm-hmm. So if we can't figure out how to do a student ambassador program and just give it a shot, then they shouldn't exist. But we think they should exist, so we should do it. So that's how we got into it. And fortunately, and it relates to what Mark was saying about experience within your account managers. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the people that we had on the team, we have some fantastic people who led these programs. They had been student ambassadors, mm-hmm. and they also were a lot younger than me and fairly younger than Mark. So they were close to the college age. They graduated within the last 5 years and had been student ambassadors. And we love to give young people responsibility right out of school. So they did a great job, and it involved, accepting and responding to texts at 11 p.m. at night, because that's when the student ambassador might want to text you. Oh. So it wasn't 9 to 5 on our side for that. And it involved really good incentives every week. And if you structure it right and you have the right person that the student ambassadors can relate to, and it also involved, in some brands' cases, when they're willing to make that investment, bringing them into the brand headquarters for a training session. LL Bean did that, and it was wonderful when we kicked off the first program with them, and we're still doing it after a few years with them.
Yeah. So, Natalie and Jarrett were the tour managers.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. And they've done some wonderful things for us. And I think weren't they the connection for you guys when we first met you?
Yeah. We saw them at Taste of Cincinnati. They were there with LL Bean, actually, like doing the pop-up setup there at the Taste.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a great example for you, not to get off track on the answer, because Mark, you might have wanted to say something too, but I think that's a great example for you to share with us too, on just the power of networking. When you go out and make those connections, mm-hmm. People who do a really good job get to know each other, mm-hmm. and then share those connections. Yeah, that shoe, first of all, that shoe stands out anywhere, that footprint. Yeah, the bootmobile. Even when we would see Natalie and Jarrett driving it, we were like, what? This is cool. What is really going on here? Yeah. So we were very inquisitive, and we would ask them, who are you guys working with? Where, how did this program become about? And we always ask, fellow EXPs, okay, how do you like working for Newbridge? Do they pay you well? Do the account managers know what they're doing? That's kind of how we judge, whether we're going to pursue even reaching out to you guys for future opportunities, or whether or not we should just, based on what we're told, just, not even reach out. So it was good. And then the reputation that Natalie and Jarrett has precedes a lot of the work that they do anyway. So mm-hmm. you already know, if they're doing it and they're happy with the agency, then more than likely you're going to have a great experience as well. So just having that network and having experienced EXPs who know great agencies, it helps you guys out too, because oftentimes that we're referring somebody who's going to be of the same caliber. So it makes your jobs, a little easier, because you don't have to, go out and look from a database. You're going to trust the word of that tour manager, because the work that they bring as well.
Yeah, it's so key. We trust them to pretty deeply. I go way back with Natalie and Jarek on programs that even when I was a tour manager, she loves every icon there is out there. Yeah. And she was the Geico, the gecko, and she's like, I want to drive the Peanut. She loves those types of things. But having that referral was huge, and it meant a lot. And we put a lot of trust in the people that have worked for us in the past, and when they refer people to us, goes a long way. We know we could trust you guys based on that referral alone. And then, a lot of times based what Steve is mentioning, having the student on the student ambassador side, having the student ambassador be a student ambassador before coming on to Newbridge and managing student ambassadors is so key. It's like us two being on a Zoom call with like 15 college students is probably not the best use of our time. And it's better to have somebody that can relate a lot more. So we like to bring on people that have done that. And then on the student ambassador side of things, our clients have hired past student ambassadors too. So it doesn't just go great for the program. You can get a job after the program's over with a passionate brand that you love.
That's an example where we're pivoting as well back to that question where we're currently pitching student ambassador programs in the traditional sense. But when I say in the traditional sense, we're pitching it to marketers, although it's going to be leaning more to the digital side, but still physical on campus. So we're still pitching it that way, but we're also pitching it currently in the last few months to HR managers for companies, because we realized as we looked at it, again, this is another one of those, we keep saying it, not rocket science sorts of things where you're just kind of using common sense. We look at it and see student ambassadors, like Mark said, getting hired by brands when they get done doing the marketing work, because brands are like, wow, that person's awesome. I really want him on the team, or I want her on the team. We've had a number of them get hired by brands, either as interns or as full-time employees. So we're pitching to HR people now and just overtly saying, why don't you just build these things to recruit people? Because you're not going to be able to be there physically on campus this year recruiting. There's no career fairs. We're looking at launching a career fair digital conference as well, sort of a like TEDx sort of digital conference. We'll see where that goes. But we're doing certain things in the recruiting space because we also have data on college student leaders from campus clubs. We have the contact info for over 350,000 student club leaders, and we have wonderful tagging behind the scenes to know, like, if you want, depending on what sort of major, what sort of club that you're looking to hire, we can really help. But we thought, why not pivot on that one as an example and just say, go get to know the ambassadors. You can also do marketing, but the focus is recruiting, as opposed to usually we're saying focus on marketing and you can also do recruiting. So it's just another example.
So is the program only open to current students, or can alumni?
That's a great question. It's really built around campus experience. Okay. So it's really for that. But that said, that we do have, if somebody keeps their email, we can still get in touch with you after you graduate if you want to respond. So we're working with companies like Starbucks and LinkedIn and Bank of America on the recruiting side. And, if they want to reach alumni, we don't overpromise, but we have some contact info that can still be helpful, but it's not designed around that.
Okay. That's good to know. EXPs, I hope you guys are listening. My email has been expired, so I'm out the loop on that, but definitely check your emails, because you may be getting an email from Newbridge with, opportunities that you may be available to apply for. So got 2 more questions and we're going to wrap up. First question, what would you say to an EXP right now who is trying to figure out if tour opportunities will arise this year, if they should pivot digitally and take more digital courses, or if they want to apply for opportunities with Newbridge? Like, what advice would you give them right now during this time?
Yeah, I mean, one piece of advice is, like, I've said this to not just EXPs, but to friends and just about anybody that's in a position where things are stalled. Build upon yourself. Like, you're a great example of this by getting your CDL. You utilize this time to enhance your resume and build some qualities and skills to better position yourself when we come out of this. So that's one thing. The industry's strong. It's going to come back. And we've already seen some signs of it coming back. A lot of conversations we're having now are what we've been talking about, but also companies that want to get samples out. They're sitting on a lot of samples. So food truck tours, mobile selling, selling their product out remotely, so they don't have to rely on maybe an event or something like that. So the typical events might not be happening yet, but you can make an event, so to speak, where you can put your food truck. Miyoko is one of our clients, is a perfect example of this. Like, we had to change the direction of the tour. We were supposed to go to Whole Foods and sample at all the Whole Foods, and obviously that's not happening right now. So we went to the first responders. We took it to the hospitals and made grilled cheese sandwiches. And
that's Varian David.
Yeah, Varian. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know him?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he was awesome, and he came through, in the clutch when we were looking for a local tour manager. He stood out, and Katie interviewed him as well. And Katie's like, he's got this. And I actually remember him from Gen Z, another client of ours that Steve brought in years ago. He worked on that too. So I'm like, I know that name. And people, that's a good point too. It's like, if you do a good job out there, you're going to stick out, and we're going to remember you. So even yourself, when you sent a note to us, I remembered, you on the tour. So I stopped and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And now we're here. So, yeah.
That's cool. Are you guys still doing that Mykonos tour, or did they?
We are, yeah. So it just actually ended, and then the sampling at the retail stores, if everything goes smooth, will happen again in the fall. But the tour just completed in the Northern California area. So yeah.
Okay. And what would you say to an EXP who wants to apply for future opportunities? Should they just go to the Newbridge website and apply?
Yeah, so we use Pop Bookings as one of our sources, which I'm sure you're familiar with, to apply for ambassador positions, but also just to get into the system. We have a tag system in there where you can say you're a CDL driver, you're Class A driver, or you're a tour manager. So there's a lot of tags in there, even an influencer. So like mentioning some of the things that people can be doing while the pandemic's going on. If you have a good social following, you're somewhat of an influencer, so you can move in that direction too. But going back to the application side of things, that's a great way to do it. But also make sure that you're following us on social media, because we post typically there. So we'll blast out like what's happening at a new program to our entire database of EXPs, but then we'll also post on social. So if you're following us on social, you're going to get, hit with that direct link right away.
Okay. Steve, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just emphasize those points that Mark's making around building skill base right now, building social following, and I'd say keep an eye out for what you think might be smart ideas, because and also consider which industries are going to do the best near term. Natural food and beverage is a good example. Packaged goods, good example. A lot of us are shopping in grocery stores right now and not going to restaurants as much. So depending on where you live. But there's certain industries doing better. Digital technology. Those sorts of industries, those sorts of companies are going to be leaning in. Like you said, build your own digital skills as well. Just with technology. But in general, keeping an eye out for those sorts of opportunities, the kinds of we're open to, if you have an idea even of, hey, here's something that's, if you're a brand ambassador, tour manager, here's something interesting I saw, I just thought you guys might want to know. We're always listening. If there's, something for us to learn, maybe we have a contact at that brand. That's a way for somebody to get to know us. I love the way you reached out. That's the perfect example, just to say, hey, we worked in the past, and this is what I got going on. Because I candidly wasn't tuned in that you had all this great content. So I saw the email, I checked out your content, and I was like, man, she's got she's doing a lot of really good stuff in a proactive entrepreneurial way.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, I want to talk to you. So I think standing out like that is really helpful. You obviously have a lot of great experience. For those that have less experience, there's still ways they can stand out. They can be, just be inspired and proactively, creatively think and reach out and connect.
And I think that's the main thing. Like, even when you don't have experience, if you send your information and you let that account manager know that you're highly interested, they may not have an opportunity for you at that time, but I can remember I would spend days, hours just reaching out, and oftentimes that account manager would remember. And when an opportunity arose, I would be the first one they called. So it's about building those relationships and building that rapport, because ultimately that's how you're able to move up as an EXP in the industry, and oftentimes even transition to Mark's side and work as an account manager, because sometimes, you might feel like you got a shelf life out here in the field and tired of just hopping from hotel to hotel, suitcase to suitcase. So you want to continue to work in the industry. And that's like the hard part for a lot of people that have been in the industry for a while. It's like, how do I transition to the side that Mark's on, but still be involved? So I just thought about that. But Mark, do you want to, any advice you have for that person that's like, I want to stay in experiential, but I don't want to be in the field anymore?
Yeah, ask a lot of questions and learn along the way. So we're pretty transparent. Like, another thing we like to do from time to time is bring on some tour managers ahead of the program. So that's a good way to get some more experience too, by just, when you're applying for a position like this, mention to that account manager to say, hey, I'd be willing to come on a little earlier and help with the routing side of things and help with the logistics side of things. Because as you know, Jay, like the one of the biggest things is, like, you'll show up at the Taste of Cincinnati and they might go to tea and be like, oh, are you Mark? Like, so having somebody come on a month or two before and help with that side of things, and actually work with the events and know the ins and outs. We've had better successful tours. Like, we've used Natalie as an example for that. She came on a month or two before the Kentucky tour, I believe, that we had. And she worked with a lot of the account managers or the event managers. So going into the locations, she knew exactly what to do, exactly who to call. So there's a big education component to that, but learning as much as you can, getting more experience. I know for us as an agency, it's one key area that we like to look at is past experience. It's better to hire somebody with good field experience to understand that side, because they're going to understand the inside of it that much easier because they understand that component. So just keep asking questions and keep gaining experience any way you can.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just two extra thoughts, Jay, related when I think about Natalie and you with what you're doing with media. And one is also related to research. I think two other skills to really focus on building. One is for I'm thinking people in general that are thinking in this downtime, if I don't currently have a gig I'm working on, what is it that I can be doing to enhance myself that's going to be really valuable to agencies and brands? Marketing strategy and research, just reading up on it, staying tuned into that is one thing, because the more that's the surprise value that you can get. When somebody goes into an execution, they're wanting to make sure it's executed right. And the brand shows up, they're looking, is it being executed? What learnings are we getting? And if a brand ambassador or a tour manager has really studied up and thought about it and can share insights that are helpful, that's a way to really stand out. And the second is media. I think with what you do with your media is a great example. And Natalie, I remember being with Natalie in Oakland. We were there it was with the mayor of Oakland. They were announcing these e-bikes that were getting launched as a city partnership. And our partner, Gen Z, it gets a little confusing with the brand name because Gen Z is kind of a popular term these days. GENZE, Generation Zero Emissions was the name of the brand, Gen Z. But they had a partnership with the city of Oakland. And we were there So Natalie and Jarek were there, and I was there it was a big day for us with, such a PR kind of event. And they're running test rides out there with these e-bikes. They're like scooters. So, these electric scooters. All of a sudden, the press just came upon Natalie, and Natalie. So, I mean, Natalie was just like, no problem. Like she took it like, it was like you were watching a newscaster. I mean, she was so comfortable behind the microphone with camera going that right away she had the key brand points that she wanted to hit. And in my role, as I'm the, on the agency side, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I walked out of there just thinking, thank goodness for whatever she ever wants to do with us, she's got it. When I looked at that and I look at what you do, and it's the same way, you got great media going on, and those media skills become more and more important because PR becomes that much more a part of experiential as we go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. It's times when you're put in those situations where you have to step up and give those key talking points without even knowing, and being able to do so and articulate it, while staying in tune as to what everything else is going on. Like,
yeah,
it could be a lot to manage, but it takes a special person. Natalie's one of those people that can handle a lot of those situations. But I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. Mark, I wanted to ask you really quick. You hit on the part about working as an account manager and transitioning. Fill this in for me. The one thing a EXP in the field needs to understand to become an account manager is that you didn't know before. The one thing that you didn't know before.
Can you repeat one more time? I'm sorry, I was breaking up a little bit.
The one thing that an EXP transitioning to the account side needs to know is, so like fill that in for me. Something that you didn't know before that within the first month, you're like an aha moment for you.
Yeah, just the overall planning side of things. You need to learn that, like leading up to it, like what has to happen to make a tour start. Like on the other side, how to execute a tour, but how does it all start? So getting some education on that is key. Like, how does this, like asking questions like that? How do you bring in clients? And then how does it start? Like, how does the process? Like Steve hit it on the head earlier in this conversation, where a lot of times we pitch something, and when the tour goes out, it's a completely different project. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a different vehicle even. So learning just to be flexible on the planning side, just like you're flexible on the execution side, is really key. Because you have to ebb and flow in this industry, and that's one common thing between the sides. You have to go with the flow.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up because a lot of times in the field, EXPs do not understand that it's another component, and you guys have your own set of problems and things that you're working through as well. So we, oftentimes EXPs may feel like, well, why can't that account manager do this? Why can't they approve this like instantly? Or how come it's taking so long? And oftentimes we forget, EXPs forget that it's a chain of command, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes before a tour is even rolled out. So I wanted you to shed light on that, because oftentimes I can get lost in translation when we're out in the field and dealing with our own set of logistical things as well.
Yeah. I watched your interview with, is it Ashley from Buffalo Wild Wings? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think she made a really good point there about the length of time that takes for, like things can happen faster in the field, which we love. That's the atmosphere we want as an agency internally. But there's the realities on certain brands that you need sometimes. Maybe there's a risk. Maybe you need legal approval. Maybe there's a perceived risk to the brand of a certain kind of event. I mean, I guess the example was good that she shared as well with the, I forget what they called it. It was great. The wipe left and right with the super spicy wings. Yeah. Or if somebody gets ill because of that, right? So there's a little bit of brand risk in certain things, but certain things just require some extra approvals. And I think like anything in life, there's a certain language within different communities, right? So the brand community has a certain language that when you first hear some of their terms they might use, it seems complex. But when you boil it down, it's not complex. It has to do with understanding consumers and data and some basic things. But you need somebody to help work you through the new language in a way. So I'd say as you step into an account manager role, you're really doing a lot of communication both on the brand side as well as the field side. And on the brand side, making sure you just talk to people on the brand side, open those communications, understand what is it that they measure for success and how you need to get there, and then thinking creatively, because you come in with, you might not realize it as a person from the field who's coming into an account manager role, but you got a superhero cape on that you might not even realize you have on, because you understand the reality in the field. So you're going to have a big advantage, but you first need to get over that language barrier of what's this brand manager talking about with these KPIs and whatever else, what are they looking to drive? But it doesn't take long to figure that out. Once you figure that out, then it's like, okay, let me help come with examples on what they can do in the field that are practical.
That's good advice, because oftentimes, like you say, that messaging and that verbiage and language is different, but it means the same thing. But just understanding the terminology is key. And
right.
Don't take it personal. Sometimes we get so personal and think that an agency or an account manager might be attacking us, but oftentimes they're just trying to find the best compromise with their client and working with us in the field. So just work with the account managers and be patient, and just know that there are great agencies like Newbridge and great account managers that are fighting on our behalfs as well. So,
yeah.
Yes. Before we wrap, I always like to ask a personal question. So we talked about hobbies, we talked about things of that sort, but I want to know, how are you guys faring through this pandemic? What have you been doing to stay busy?
You want to take that first, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I start my day at 5 a.m. I have a 6-month-old now, and he wakes me up quite a bit. So if the pandemic came at any good time, right now it is, because having a newborn, you don't go outside anyways. So the timing, thank you to the pandemic people that made it happen this time. If there's anything that I do, usually when he wakes me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll typically stay up, make a cup of coffee, and I'll go surf. So I'll surf in the mornings for an hour, and it's a great way to start my day, because I'm just happy, and I come back and come in with a smile on my face to work every day. So that's usually what I spend my time, and the rest of it's just confined to my house.
As we all. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, well, I've got 4 kids, so our kids range from age 13 to 10. We've got twin 10-year-olds, so we got 4 pretty tightly packed. They're a little less than 3 years apart. So it was an interesting transition as a family. My wife works as well, and she works remotely as well. So we sometimes at the middle school and older elementary age, you got Zoom calls going on. So we'd have 6 at a time. So sometimes my time spent running to a quiet space. I'm currently up in the attic right now. Running to a quiet space where you can get your call in, where you can be close to the internet. For fun though, I really like to run, and I forgot to mention that in the email in advance, but I enjoy running. And my kids too, they like running as well in general, in their age. So going for runs at night with them, it doesn't come without stress during a pandemic and a time of social change. So it's a lot to think through, and it's a lot on our shoulders right now.
Yeah.
And we feel a responsibility for the people on the team, and not just that, but the brand ambassadors and everybody else. So it is great to take some fresh air, just step out to nature, take hikes and ride bikes and stuff. So.
Oh yes, I appreciate both of you coming on today and just sharing your insight, and just being honest and transparent, because a lot of times it gets lost in translation. So thank you for being one of the great agencies that represent the experiential marketing industry as a whole. Thank you for realizing the importance of appreciating everybody at every level. And just thank you for making time today, because I know that this conversation is going to speak volumes. And it's going to be something that a lot of EXPs will latch on to and look at over and over again, because you guys are a great example as to how it should be done. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having this avenue to push the message through. It's great. Like I haven't seen anything like this. So great job to you.
Yeah, I'm inspired by what you're doing. I think you're doing some really, really cool things, and thanks for the good work you did for us as well, for NOR, and the miraculous distribution of so many samples in a short period of time. But thanks for bringing us in. Like Mark said, yeah, it's great to get to know you a little bit better personally. And like I said earlier, I'd like to follow up with you as well. But yeah, thanks for this opportunity and your time.
You're welcome. And thank you guys all for tuning in. This video will live on my YouTube channel, and then I'm actually going to go and upload it back on my Facebook as well, so everybody can watch it. But thank you guys all for tuning in. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself. I'm going to also include Newbridge's information. So if you want to reach out and inquire about opportunities or go through pop bookings, you're more than welcome to. So, spam's calling. Sorry. But with that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. And Mark and Steve, thank you guys again.
Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.